I do think this is going to have to be a ground game with Dylan Edwards and Avery Johnson shouldering the workload. You wish you had a bye after this one again, because this might be a game they got to run the ball. Those two a combined 40 times.
Hello and welcome into another edition of Three Ma. I'm John Kurtz, joined by Manbeck and Derek Young. It is preview time. K-State is going to Baylor, coming off of a win. And you know what that means. Raise a glass of Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond Bourbon from our friends at Holiday Distillery, or 360 Vodka, whichever you so choose. But if you're going to be having a watch party this weekend, hey, if you're going out to Waco, if you're going to do some sailgating at McLean Stadium, make sure that you bring some Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond Bourbon along for the ride with that. Thank you to our friends at Holiday Distillery, as always, for bringing you this show. Look at us. We're back here. Cats by 90 is lit up. It got turned off before the UCF game, but K-State wins by 2 touchdowns. Now the sign is lit, and all is right with the world. Doesn't it feel better to be sitting here on a Tuesday, Wednesday preview show, like with some energy? K-State winning a game. I don't know that we're all going to pick K-State to win this game in Waco, but at least it feels like, there's a chance. Didn't really feel like that beforehand.
Yeah. No, they're with you. We talked you into turning the sign back on last week, by the way. It was
I know. That is true. I was the most cynical of the three about getting a UCF win, and I did kind of bully Cole at the end of that, asking why he would dare pick K-State to win by double digits, and they won by double digits. So here's a formal apology to you, Cole.
Thank you. And if there is a better feeling than being 2-3 in early October, I'd like you to tell me, because coming off a win to get to 500 in league play, damn, does it feel good. I'll just say once again and reiterate, guys, everything's on the table. All right. We said win 7 of your last 8 last week. You took a little link off the chain you used to do the countdown to Christmas. You just got to go 6-1. 6-1.
I thought it would be like Major League when we're taking patches off a naked woman. No?
That's not well. Someone get that made, and we'll make sure to have it for the next 3 months. So make sure everybody who's listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you need to get to YouTube. Well, Cole, actually, we said Cats 9-0. So I don't know where you're coming up with this one loss left on the schedule. I'm not thinking about a loss.
I think you turning that light off was a real wake up call to the football team. I think they saw that. You said lights out, and they were like, okay, Manbeck's speech didn't get us going before Arizona, but when Kurtz turned the lights out on us, that was enough. All right, we got enough of this bullshit from 3 more.
And all it took was me to bet like Avery Johnson rushing yard over prop to get him to really start to run too.
DY, do you know how many people I know that won quite a bit of money on those rushing props for Avery? It's a lot of text coming in.
The odds were so good, and so if they were being serious about him running, it's like, man, a lot of these are going to get dunked on.
Yeah.
Were you feeling concerned at all when you saw Blake Barnett roll out there and start taking carries in the first half?
A tiny bit, but even at that point, Avery was already over 30, so he was almost to his first threshold already at that point, because he had a 25-yard run the first few plays.
I was going to say that first run probably ticked off your first prop. Yeah, basically, yeah. All right, well, look, the vibes are a little bit better, as you can tell around here, and that's why my first storyline today is, look, forget winning and losing. All right, let's take that out of the picture for right now. How likely is it that we get the same type of vibe and effort from the team? Like just energy, intensity, everything that we kind of said. It's basically like, I mean, it's crazy that we're talking about this in late September, 5 games into a season, but it's kind of like table stakes. To win a Big 12 football game, you need to have a requisite amount of energy and enthusiasm and just care, Yeah. They finally showed that. What are the odds that we get that again? Whether they win or lose, that we get that type of effort, energy, intensity out of the team again?
My guess, at least until the record is dramatically altered, or if it gets dramatically altered, my guess would be that you get that again, I'm going to say they'll get that. They'll provide that much energy, enthusiasm, and passion, care factor until they probably lose again, unless like it's at the end of the season and they still have something to fight for. But that would assume a large winning streak, which I'm not quite there yet, anyways.
I think the challenge will be going on the road and trying to be able to carry it over into a road atmosphere where you don't have the crowd behind you. You got to create your own energy when you go on the road, obviously. And if they get down by 10 points early, are they able to keep their heads up still and play with that passion or desire? Or is it something that requires them to get off to a good start, or their confidence goes down and they're not playing with that energy? And so a lot of it is dictated, I think, by the start of this game, it being on the road. But I do think they'll come out with a fire and an energy only because they're coming off a win finally and feeling the positive vibes from that. So yeah, I'm sure the message in the locker room is one game at a time, but these guys know that technically the Big 12 championship is still something that's on the table as they sit at 1-1 in the league. And so if you hit the reset button and start thinking about the big picture and what that looks like, a win at Baylor would go a long way to starting to believe a little bit. And so I do think they'll come out with and show that desire. But whether they can sustain that, again, is dictated by the flow of the game. How mature is this football team to keep it for 60 minutes in a road atmosphere, even when things aren't maybe going your way the entirety of it?
I would say in ways, I think it's probably easier to do it on the road where you feel like you're enemy number one. I think some people relish and embrace that position. On the flip side, I'm not sure Baylor is going to be at a fever pitch anyway, though.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the atmosphere in Waco is like, because
it's 11 a.m.
Yeah, I mean they've had a couple of big home games to start the year that have not gone well. Obviously with a couple of losses there to Arizona State and Auburn, and I definitely hear you. I think a lot of teams do love that on the road. I would just again question, like, is this one of those teams that does that, relishes that and can get behind it and embrace it? And Cole, to what you said, so let's say they have the same start to the Baylor game that they had to the UCF game, right? Rip off a couple of huge runs, and then you throw a pick. I mean, hopefully it's not a true freshman tight end throwing this interception, but throw an interception, right? Halts all the momentum. Then how would this team respond at that point? Because I do think that's a moment where, had the UCF game been on the road last week, if that's how it goes down, that there is a much better chance that things don't recover from there.
I agree, Joe. I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you.
Are you concerned about Lincoln Kyr's quarterback rating right now, though?
What is it? I feel like someone said it. What is it?
Like negative 200, I think.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, I feel like someone said it was negative 200, but I didn't want to sound like an idiot if that was wrong.
Well, I didn't know that was possible. I didn't know you could.
I didn't think it was possible.
Well, maybe somebody's messing with us. It's got to be 0. 0-1 with an interception. It's got to be at least 0. So.
Okay. Well, Cole, you're supposed to be the stat guy, man. Don't hang me out to dry on that. Find me Lincoln Kyr's passer rating, please.
Oh, sorry. I will get on that during the show here. Sorry. See what I was doing here before the show, guys, was charting 30 and 40-yard plays for every Big 12 team since 2023 that were given up, and through 5 games this year. So, yeah.
It's pretty good. Is this making a Baylor point or a K-State point?
Well, this is making both points, actually. Really, sometimes, when the numbers, like you go into like a little project or initiative and you're like, you start running the numbers and it hits what you want the narrative to be. In this case, not really a good narrative for K-State, but I just wanted to feel like I didn't waste my time and what I thought the story would tell. I don't know if you want me to get into it now because it's more about the Baylor K-State specifics.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, look, it's a nice tease for everybody. It's a nice tease. It's time spent listening that we're building up here on the podcast. Okay, look, I'm going to make this the top storyline of the week, which is brought to you by our good friends at Alenco. For all your home improvement needs, make sure that you talk to Alenco. It's alencohome.com, ALENCO home.com to get hooked up with them. They are great K-Staters who support us here on the show. We're going to talk a lot about the defense. In a lot of ways, it's a nightmare matchup for the K-State defense, but offensively, if K-State's going to be able to score and keep up with Baylor in this game, even if the idea is ball control, which Chris Kleiman talked a lot about at the press conference, Jace Brown played like 3 snaps last week, was out the rest of the game. JB Bradley, who had been a really pleasant surprise, I think this year, has been out for a couple of games now. And Chris Kleiman, not sure if they're going to be able to play. DY, does K-State have any chance if you don't have at least one of the two, Jace Brown and or JB Bradley?
Yeah, it's a team that's been pretty banged up throughout the season, right? Colby McAllister hasn't played a game yet, and you probably thought you might have him back by now. George Fitzpatrick hasn't played a game yet. Ryan Davis missed a few games. JB Nelson had to leave the last game. Adonis Moise, another receiver. Like their receiver room is almost depleted at this point because Adonis Moise, I think, had almost around 10 snaps, then had to bow out and didn't return in that game against UCF. And you add in Jace Brown and JB Bradley on top of that, you're missing what? You could argue 3 of your top 4 receivers right there, since Moise has been kind of getting that kind of, I guess, respect and usage from the Kansas State coaches through almost the first half of the season. Are sitting at 2-3 right now. So, and remember, with those receivers being out, I said the question going into the season about the receiver room, I guess it probably should have been drops, but was the depth. I wasn't too confident behind it. And you even had Sterling Lockett get his first catch last week. It'll be hard to beat Baylor without at least one of Jace Brown or JB Bradley, because Cole's probably going to talk about later. He kind of just highlighted you're going to need some explosives to maybe keep up in a game that could be offensive oriented. And if you only have one real playmaker that you're counting on that can be a home run threat, and that's Dylan Edwards, I guess you could count Jerron Tibbs into that as well. You just limit yourself in what you're able to do from an offensive standpoint.
Well, if you think about Baylor, and this doesn't sound like a staggering number, but over their last 12 games dating to the midway point of last season, they've scored 24 points or more. Well, all right, again, doesn't sound like an overwhelming number, but Kansas State, dating back to the Houston game last year, has scored 21 points or less in 6 of their last 10 games. So you got to be able to score probably into the low 30s to have a real shot in this game. Baylor scored 48 against SMU in the overtime game. They scored 45 last week against Oklahoma State. We know they're terrible on defense. They scored 24 against Arizona State and Auburn. But you have to have some playmakers out wide. It's a Baylor defense you can expose. There's no doubt about that. But if Dave Aranda and the defensive unit can just gear up to stop the run with Avery Johnson and Dylan Edwards, like, this isn't a typical K-State team that can probably just line up and play smash mouth football without the threat of a vertical threat in the passing game. And Jerron Tibbs is really your only guy at that point. And frankly, they run him on a lot of shorter slants, hook routes, curl routes on the boundary. You got to have guys that can stretch the field. JB Bradley brings that to the table and brings you that size. And then Jace Brown is your big play guy. So again, I would really love to see what the offense looks like with a healthy Dylan Edwards and those 3 at wide receiver and see what they could do. I don't know if we're going to get that this Saturday. If we do, we know they're probably not going to be at 100% health, but I think at a minimum, you need one of those 2 guys back. If you get both of them, great. You have a real shot to put up points against this Baylor defense, because there are some things you can expose them with. You can hit them with explosives. You can get big plays against them, but you got to be able to score the football in this game. And there's just not enough explosiveness offensively with Dylan Edwards and Avery Johnson as really your 2 big playmakers, and Jerron Tibbs being, a little bit more of a possession guy from the way that they're running things.
That's just it, man. It's like feels like we're on a track to never get a glimpse of the offense at full strength when the team is still in it for, whatever their biggest goals are this season. I mean, you are correct, Cole, what you said at the beginning of the show. Tongue in cheek or not, it is still all out there on the table. But you go out there and lose this game, pick up a second conference loss, and then it's like, all right, well, when are these guys actually coming back? It would be rough because Chris Kleiman even said as much in the press conference, right? Like, you're not going to win this game 10-7. You're going to have to score. I was curious for your guys' take on the kind of ball control aspect of this, because I know Kleiman mentioned that. Where was my stat? K-State is K-State is 127th in time of possession this year.
That's really because of the Army and Arizona games where they got outsnapped by, I think, almost 40 in each of those two contests. Maybe North Dakota and Iowa State were just as bad too. I'm not remembering those as much, but they were out-snapped by almost a combined 80 plays against Army and Arizona, so that's where it comes into hand. I like the idea of ball control, but don't let it dictate the rhythm of your offense or get you out of a good rhythm, is what I would say. And sometimes I think they fall into that trap where they want to be ball control so much that sometimes they throw themselves out of whack when something's going right. Like if something's going right, just let it fly a little bit and see where the chips fall at that point. But ball control is a good idea. I think the teams that have beaten Baylor have not really done that, though, is what I would say. Arizona State kind of, I guess, once they got when they beat Baylor by 3 points. But the other teams, the ones that have beaten Baylor in recent memory, we're talking about Auburn and SMU. Those were essentially shootouts, not necessarily ball control philosophies or game plans.
Yeah, so they also lost time of possession to Iowa State by almost 8 minutes. Interestingly enough, Iowa State controlled the clock in the second half and really ran the ball against K-State. I think they almost ran 15, 20 more plays than Kansas State as well. So they've lost time of possession in 4 of the 5 games. They also lost it to North Dakota by about 3 minutes. Actually, entering last week's game against UCF, they were 129th in the country and time of possession. So I think they won time of possession against UCF, which was the first time, right? So, it makes me think that they're not going to run like a lot of tempo in this game, guys. And Chris Klieman mentioned the heat in Waco in the press conference and concerned about that and the depth standpoint. And so that makes me think he's not going to want his defense going up against tempo and what Baylor does offensively for a significant number of snaps. And so they're going to try to limit that, which makes it sound like they may want to make this a ground control type game. And if they do that, Avery Johnson's going to have to run even more than he did last week. And Dylan Edwards is going to have to be counted on for 20 carries as well. And then they're going to have to get creative with the tight ends to make them weapons if you don't have J.B. Bradley and Jace Brown. But again, hopefully they have at least one of those guys to give you more of an explosive threat that opens things up a little bit.
And even in a game where they had a pretty comfortable lead on UCF for a large part of it, Dylan had 20 carries. So I think we could almost expect that again.
Yeah, I think my concern is, like has already been mentioned here, like I don't have enough trust in the play calling right now and your play caller to not get too sidetracked by whatever they have preconceived notion, which I guess unless Chris Klieman is playing total mind games here, but I don't think he would be, that you just get that lodged in your head too much. I don't have enough faith in this being like a nice free-flowing operation, of being very flexible and open with a lot of different options for how things are going to work with the play calling. So that is my big concern there.
I think he just wants to keep the ball out of Baylor's hands because he doesn't trust his defense to be on the field that much against them, which I get. So I don't think he thinks they can win a shootout.
Yeah, as I think about that, John, one of the things that this team, and I charted this a couple games ago, and I don't know what the numbers show now, but they really struggle to sustain long scoring drives. Like when they have scored, it's been a lot of actual explosives, right? I mean, Dylan Edwards against UCF was the 75-yarder. Against Iowa State, you had the Jace Brown touchdown pass, the J.B. Bradley touchdown pass. You had a big one against North Dakota, a big one against Army, etc. And then obviously against Arizona, the Jace Brown 75-yard touchdown run. Either they're getting a short field off a turnover and they're able to score, or they're hitting a home run type play to get a touchdown. Explosives are great, but in a game like this, the way Chris Klieman was talking, like you got to have more of those like grind it out 12, 14 play, 75-yard drives that chew up 7 to 8 minutes. I don't think this team can do that. They haven't proven that they can do it. You got to have a good offensive line to be able to do that and to be able to churn it out. And I just don't think, and more depth at running back. Like, Joe Jackson, like your number 2, number 3 running backs have to be far better than what they've been.
4 of those against UCF, though, so they were much better. They had a 10-play scoring drive against UCF, a 6-play, a 9-play to 6-play.
Yeah, 6-play. I wouldn't really classify as like a grind it out. Like, wasn't one of those like a really short field on the Maldonado pick DY, like a 25-yard drive?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
but if you're going to have a 25-yard drive, you'd rather have it 6 plays than to do the ball control like we're talking about.
That's true. Cole, we don't need to be. Listen, But you just squeeze all that you can out of that 25 yards, my friend. Bleed that clock,
Well,
baby.
We just talked about that.
Yeah, and the other thing that'll be such a big thing in a game like this, guys, is turnovers. Because to get off the field, you could maybe turn Baylor over a little bit. K-State forced 3 against UCF, which was a season high. Well, Baylor's 109th in the country in turnover margin. Only forced 5 turnovers on defense. They've lost 8. They've actually lost 5 fumbles on the year. K-State's forced 8 turnovers. You'd like to see that number higher, but they've forced 8, they've lost 6. So they're +2 in turnover margin, ranking 43rd in the country. So a pretty big gap. Baylor -3, K-State +2. If you can get a couple of turnovers and get your defense off the field in that way, then you might be in a good spot. Now, the other concern you have as we think about this game is Baylor goes for it on 4th down all the time. And so when you think about getting off the football field, no team in the Big 12, but Baylor's been top 5 in the country in 4th down attempts each of the last 4 years. This year, they're 11 of 20 on 4th downs already. They're top 3 in the country in 4th down attempts and in 4th down conversions. Dave Aranda is going to go for it on 4th downs. If they're anywhere near midfield or beyond, we've seen Matt Wells, go for they're in a 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8 in opponent field position, and he'll run the ball to try and get enough 4th and short, and it hasn't worked a lot of times, or they'll run a curl route to get in 4th and 5. Dave Aranda will run the ball on a 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, if they are in 4-down territory to get into that 4th and 2. They will go for it like crazy. I mean, they've attempted over 40 4th down attempts 2 of the last 3 seasons, which again, top 2, top 3 in the country.
At least gives you the opportunity to get off the field, though.
Yeah. Well, Kansas State hasn't been very good.
Oh, I know, but I mean, at least the opportunity is going to be there.
Yeah. Dude, Aranda will be pretty reckless. He will be pretty reckless for sure. Okay. We've got one more storyline coming up here in just a moment, but hey, how about this storyline? The Chiefs are back, baby. Just pounded the Ravens, man. Pounded the Ravens. Calling all Chiefs fans, you could be on the field at the 50 inside GEHA field for the official coin toss at a Chiefs home game this season. Visit Chiefs.com/GEHA now. Enter to win a chance to be on the field for a once-in-a-lifetime view of the pregame coin toss. Plus, you can score other exclusive prizes. Enter for a chance to win at Chiefs.com/GEHA. GEHA is the proud partner of the Kansas City Chiefs. We're back in just a moment.
All right, we got K-State coming off a victory last week at home against UCF. They now go on the road to take on Baylor. Seen some interesting line movement over at DraftKings in this game. K-State initially opened as a 6.5 point dog on the road, and that number has stayed fine. But the total in this game has really skyrocketed up from 58.5 all the way now up to 61.5. And while I'm tempted to take the under in this game, I think the play for me is to take K-State, but do it in the first half at +3.5. I think that's a great number here in this matchup. Listen, the Baylor offense can explode at any point. We've seen some of the numbers that they've put up, but I do like K-State to ride some momentum from last week and then do it again on the road. You look at Baylor's numbers over the course of the year consistently, they only scored 24 points in their 2 losses this year. In wins, they get that number into the 40s. I just don't anticipate that with K-State improving on the defensive side of the ball. Also, Baylor has not been a good covering team throughout the course of the season. They're 0-3 against the spread at home. They're not covering some of these big numbers. We're approaching a near touchdown play. And the public is all over Baylor too. I still think that they're not sold on K-State as of yet, but if you dig a little bit deeper into some of these numbers, I see some more positives coming for K-State. They have the better turnover ratio compared to Baylor, +2 to -3. And also I think you're going to see some positive numbers in favor of K-State show up in this game. They've been better in penalty yards. They've been better in turnovers. I think they're going to keep it close on the road. Especially in the early going in the first half, maybe try to stop Baylor from approaching that 24 number and above, getting to that 40s where it's been key for them to win all year. So I like K-State. I think it's fine if you like them at +6.5, but I'm going to take them +3.5 at DraftKings Sportsbook on the road against the Baylor Bears.
Chiefs Kingdom, I have got a question for you. What is your favorite touchdown? Well, for me, I can confidently say that my favorite touchdown It's the next one, because with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, every touchdown could bring you closer to cashing in. From the first touchdown score to anytime touchdown props or the thrill of live in-game betting, every snap is loaded with opportunity. From spreads to money lines, same-game parlays, regular parlays, you want it, DraftKings has got it. Here's the best part. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly. I use DraftKings Sportsbook, and you should too. Your team hitting pay dirt pays out to you. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code KCSN. That's code KCSN to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, fees may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Minimum minus 500 odds required. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
One last thing I was going to mention on this front, and I know it got brought up. One of you two said, hey, Avery's going to have to run a lot more. I mean, like, remember how much Baylor got gashed by Jackson Arnold? Auburn's quarterback had 137 yards rushing. I was looking up the box for Arizona State. Sam Levitt had 62 yards rushing, 15 carries. So it was not nearly as impressive or prolific a clip as what Jackson Arnold did, who 16 carries, 137 yards. But I mean, he torched them. So that is something that I think is going to have to be utilized here. And it felt like Avery at least took a step in the right direction on Saturday. I mean, I think there are still times I'd prefer to see him take off and run quicker, but it seems like that's at least moving in the right place.
I thought so. Yeah. I mean, double-digit number of carries for the first time this year. Even some of the design quarterback runs that had been kind of not working at all this year, he got loose on a couple of those as well. So I definitely think it's something headed in the right direction. And you just spoke about the Baylor defense, and Cole kind of, implied it. But that's the area of the game here where if you're going to beat Baylor, it's probably because their defense is going to keep you in it. I mean, we talked about how many points Baylor has scored, at least 24 in so many consecutive games. Well, 4 out of the last 6, they've also gave up 27 or more. And one of the 2 times they didn't was against Samford. So, and one of those teams that they give up 27 or more was to Oklahoma State, which if you give up 27 to Oklahoma State, I think that's given up like 50 to anyone else at this point. So that Baylor defense is pretty leaky.
Well, Oklahoma State's 135th in the country going into that game in points per drive out of 136 teams, 0.68. And Baylor gave up 27 points on 13 drives. Which is not like a staggering number. Over 2 points per drive, though, is like 5 points per drive against a good team. So.
They got a lot of stops late to kind of deflate that number back too.
Yeah, it was back and forth there for the first half plus of the game. Yeah.
Now you could argue Doug Meacham's really figured it out. Stillwater, he's got that offensive cooking. I saw a lot of Oklahoma State fans saying finally, we're doing things. Gundy was clearly holding us back. I don't know. I didn't get to watch the game, but I don't trust that Doug Meacham really figured things out. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know. That could also just be I don't know if there's some kind of pressure relieved from the team when the coaches there's a million things that could be.
Yeah, there's the coaching change impact is always something that's hard to quantify. But the takeaway here is Baylor's defense will probably let you hang around for the most part.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the problem is the other side, and that's my final headline of the week is, I mean, that offense. Look, Sawyer Robertson's leading the nation in passing yards. Okay. Sawyer Robertson has 1,713 passing yards so far this year through 5 games. So it's buckle up, I mean, the K-State secondary has been spotty at best so far this year. Although, again, it was encouraging to see Gunnar Maldonado play a little bit better last week. Quay Moss obviously made a sick play with the interception. I think he's done some good things this year. You hope that Zayshawn Rich and Donovan McIntosh have made some strides. I don't know. It's you can hear the anxiety in my voice about this. Baylor's got not only Sawyer Robertson, who's really, really prolific passer, now can be streaky, but definitely a guy that when he gets on, he is on. But they have some really nice pass catchers too, man. And it's not just the receiving core. Like Michael Trigg, their tight end, is maybe like my favorite tight end in the Big 12. But Josh Cameron was a great receiver for him last year. Kobe Prentice is an Alabama transfer who's there. Like Cole Wilson. They've got some real weapons that they can turn to.
Yeah, and I know the big plays haunted K-State a lot last week. I think you were 6 plays over 250 yards or something like that, and the rest of the plays went for like less than 150 combined. So from a success rate standpoint, Kansas State's defense really couldn't have been better. It would have been hard to be better from a success rate standpoint, but the explosives can outdo that. That's why when, what is it, Parker from Stats of War is like, did we really get beat this badly? And sometimes it's like, well, it looks like the wrong team won. It's because success rate, they just dominate, but the 3 or 4 plays are so big that it changes the outcome of a game. And that's where the threat to the Kansas State defense comes in at, because they made some really big strides that are going to get overlooked because of those 6 plays that they got gashed on, because the defensive line finally, from start to finish, really, dominated the trenches for the first time this season. I thought they did it in the first half against Iowa State, but obviously not the second half. So I think you started to see some things get a lot better. I thought Austin Romaine, he's been pretty solid to good all year. I thought he had an All-American caliber game finally against UCF. I thought in the big plays that hurted them, you had some guys in the secondary that probably didn't take the correct angles because Chris Clement's right. You're going to have some plays that go from 10 to 20 yards in a game. That's just what it is. But it's on your secondary to not let those ones that do also get to 40, 50, and 60. And I thought that's what happened. But aside from those gaffes, it felt like, flipping VJ Payne and Wesley Fair was, Wesley Fair went for that risk on the 1 interception. He's a half a step late. For him shouldn't go for that risk, or him just not being as fast or athletic as you'd like one of your starters to be. Either way, I thought Payne and Fair flipping was probably a net positive still, despite that play, because I thought VJ Payne was better. It feels like every year they just have him in the wrong safety spot. I know one of our friends told us that too, and I totally agree. And the Gunnar Maldonado thing, his missed tackle in a hole, one of the long, big runs as well. But that was, and I went back and watched this game, I think 2 or 3 times now. That was the best game that Gunnar Maldonado has played, and by a large amount. It's a very, very wide gap. And the difference being he actually flew around that field. That interception he absolutely earned. That he should have had another interception. He almost had a third because he was tracking the ball so well. And if he just makes that tackle, we're talking about getting really, really excited about maybe getting top form Gunnar Maldonado in the very, very near future. That could really change the outlook of the secondary if that's the case.
Well, Chris Kleiman mentioned in the press conference it was his first game playing without the knee brace. So, he looked like he was playing faster out there and playing looser, not probably thinking about that knee as much now that he's gotten more snaps under his belt after the torn ACL. And not only does Sawyer Robertson lead the country in passing yards, but it's really not even close. Jaden Miaba at USC is at 1587. So he's got a 130-yard lead or advantage over the USC quarterback. That's interesting. 17 touchdowns to 3 interceptions, 17 touchdown passes lead the country as well. Robertson had over 3,000 yards last season, 8.3 yards per pass, 28 TDs to 8 interceptions. But he's 34th in the country in pass efficiency rating, which is surprising to me. His quarterback rating's 21st in the country at 77.9. I mean, this is a guy that threw for 419 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions against a good Auburn defense. I mean, guys, look what Auburn's done the last 2 weeks. Their defense has been right there against Oklahoma and A&M, holding them both in check. The offense is just a complete disaster, which we could use as a reason to highlight hope when talking about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we could talk about that as well. But look, obviously he's a hell of a quarterback. Look, we'll just go ahead and knock out some of the offense stuff here for Baylor in the preview section, and then we'll later get into the defense. But yeah, John, you mentioned the receivers, and this is where it's frustrating as a Kansas State fan, because we talk about losing Jace Brown and JB Bradley, and anybody would be hurt by that. But the depth behind is so lacking. And at this point in the Chris Kleiman era, you would hope that you would have addressed that. Like, look what Baylor has. When you count Michael Trigg at tight end, plus their top 5 wide receivers in terms of receiving yards this year, they have 6 guys with over 200 yards receiving each, at least. And then also in their careers, those 6 guys have combined for a 740 receptions for over 9,500 yards and 75 touchdowns. I mean, they got dude on dude they can go to that Kansas State just doesn't have at receiver. And then they got obviously a hell of a running back in Bryson Washington, who has 93 carries for 492 yards, 5.3 yards per rush on the year. He had over 1,000 yards last season, considered by many to be the top back in the Big 12 coming into the year. You know, he went over 100 yards now in 8 of his last 12 games, dating back to the midway point in last season. So they've got weapons out wide. Cameron leads them with 407 yards, 15.1 yards per catch. Trigg, obviously a great player. He lit up Auburn in that game, almost 100 yards. He's got over 1,000 yards in his career. Cole Wilson, Ashton Hawkins. They got 2. Cole Wilson and Ashton Hawkins are transfers from Texas State that have combined for over 4,000 yards receiving in their college football careers. And then you mentioned Kobe Prentice. It's not even counting Lewis Brown, who's 7th on the team in receiving yards with 79, but he's got 103 catches for 1,278 yards and 9 touchdowns in his career at transfer from Colorado State. So they've got a lot of depth. You know, ultimately this comes down to, you know, the big play component, which we'll just go ahead and highlight right now. Baylor on the year, 90 plays of 10 plus yards. It's the 6th highest in college football. It's the most in the Big 12. They have 28 plays of 20 or more yards. That's 21st nationally. They have 15 plays of 30 plus yards. That's 8th best in the country. They lead the country with 70 completions of 10 yards or more. They're number 7 nationally with 24 completions of 20 or more yards through the air, and number 4 in the country with 12 completions of 30 or more yards. All right, well, K-State's given up 61 plays of 10 or more yards. That ranks 82nd in the country. They're 115th in the country with 24 plays allowed of 20 or more yards. Only 17 teams in college football have allowed more plays of 20 plus yards on the season than Kansas State. They've allowed the most in the Big 12, and then 10 plays of 30 yards plus. Number 90 in the country, 6 plays of 40 plus yards allowed by K-State, 106th in the country. All right, they've allowed 26 rushes of 10 plus yards. It's 114th in the country and 15th in the Big 12, etc. You get the picture. Well, so this is where I talked about and teased out earlier in the show. I went back to 2023 because that's when it felt like the big plays had really become a problem for Joe Klanderman's defense. You remember the Missouri game and Columbia, which obviously turned out to be a really good Missouri team, but you started to see the secondary exposed a lot and communication mistakes and errors. Well, since the start of the 2023 season, Kansas State has allowed the most plays of 40 or more yards in the entire Big 12. They've allowed now, let's see here, 39 plays of 40 yards or more. I'm sorry, 15th. My bad. I forgot how egregious Oklahoma State is. Oklahoma State allowed 50 plays of 40 yards or more. K-State 39, the second most in the Big 12. Well, I'll go ahead and throw the Baylor number in for you guys. Baylor 37 plays allowed of 40 yards or more, which is the 4th most in the Big 12 during that time. If you take it down to 30-plus yard plays, Kansas State has allowed 71. That is tied for the second most with Baylor. Again, Oklahoma State has allowed 100 plays of 30 yards more since 2023. But you get the picture. Kansas State's been one of the worst teams in the country and giving up big plays since 2023, and you're playing one of the most explosive offenses in college football. And it's not just this year. Baylor was one of the most explosive offenses in college football last year.
All right. I got some takeaways from that. One, I'll just start right there because I was like, well, what's the common denominator of since 2023? And obviously one of those is Joe Klanderman. He's been the coordinator on all those teams. But the one player that's the common denominator is actually VJ Payne, 3-year starter. I mean,
Mm.
I think that's warranted to call out. I'm just saying. I'm not defending the wide receiver depth versus the Baylor wide receiver depth. There's a big gap there. I pointed out the wide receiver depth. I wasn't fond of it in the offseason. At the same time, they're down their number one wide receiver. They're either 2 or 3, however you want to quantify JB Bradley. They're number 4 probably in Donis Moise, and I believe their number 5 is also out in JD Davis. So 4 of the top 5 receivers are out. Not that I don't know how much it changes things, but I think it's a fair call out. You talk about Sawyer Robertson's lack of passing efficiency too. I think some of that is sometimes they have an unwillingness to run the ball and they become a little bit predictable through the year, and you can get some incompletions when that happens.
Yeah, the point I was really making, DY, is that like if they brought in their 4 through 6 wide receivers, they're night and day better than.
Oh, they're not as good as Baylor's. No.
Yeah, like it's just like we're talking about Adonis Moise and JD Davis, who have a combined like 30 yards in their careers, right? Their backups or their second unit has combined for like 4,000 yards, 5,000 yards in their career. Like they just have, and look, I get it. It's kind of a sexier system to sell with what they do.
You didn't count in Caleb Medford's yards in New Mexico or wherever he was.
Because I've seen like
he played 1 snap or 2 snaps. They obviously don't trust. I think Adonis Moise, if we're talking about his production over time, is a little unfair because he's a true freshman.
Well, yeah, but again, a true freshman's having to take the field for you because you got like.
I will say I like him though.
The Emmanuel Henderson thing really does hurt. Like losing him,
he's good.
Because if you had him as that third guy in the class, because they took him after they took Medford after they lost out on Emmanuel Henderson. The goal was to get JB Bradley and Jerron Tibbs and Emmanuel Henderson. Like that would have been your vertical threat, and I would have felt a lot better. We all would have about the wide receiver room.
Yeah, he speaking of explosive plays, dude had like 2 60+ yard touchdowns last week against Cincinnati in a losing effort. Yeah. Yes, thank you, DY. We'll get to the Bearcats coming up here. Well, give us some hope then, Cole, about the Baylor defense. I guess you just did. To an extent with how many big plays they give up. But yeah, Auburn's offense is terrible. Scored 10 points on Saturday against Texas A&M. They can't do much of anything, yet they dropped 38 on Baylor.
2.93 points per drive allowed on the season. That is 107th in the country. I mean, I haven't ran the numbers completely yet, but Oklahoma State might be the only one that is worse in the Big 12 in terms of points per drive allowed. Baylor defense has allowed 18 plays of 20 or more yards at 64th in the country, 8 plays of 30-plus yards, 70th in the country, 5 plays of 40-plus yards, number 83 nationally. Last season, gave up explosives all over the place. 16 plays of 40 or more yards, that was 106th in the country. 67 or 20 or more yards, that was 114th in the nation. And then 104th in the country with 185 plays allowed of 10 or more yards. So big plays can be gotten against them. 23 rushes of 10-plus yards allowed, number 90 in the country. 6 runs of 20 or more yards allowed on the season. We mentioned it. Look, Auburn ran for 307 yards on 52 carries against these guys. Now, I get it was the opening game of the season. It was in Waco. 5.9 yards per carry. Against other Power 4 schools, Auburn had 67 yards rushing on 35 carries versus Oklahoma and 52 yards on 24 carries versus Texas A&M last Saturday. So combined, 59 carries for 119 yards in those 2 games, under 2 yards per carry. Now, to be honest with you guys and be fully transparent, Jackson Arnold got sacked 17 times in those 2 games. So the rushing net yards numbers are a little bit decreased by that and hurt. But I didn't see Baylor sacking Jackson Arnold because they only did the drop back 17 times against that Baylor defense. Auburn had 6 yards per play versus Baylor. They had 4.2 yards per play at OU and 3.1 yards per play versus Texas A&M. So you see the numbers there. Baylor, number 74 in the country in pass efficiency defense, allows 7.1 yards per pass, 76 in the country, allowing almost 5.5 yards per play, 75th nationally, and number 12 in the Big 12. We mentioned the Oklahoma State numbers. Oklahoma State had a season high 448 yards and a season best 5.7 yards per play against the Bears last week. I mean, look, Zane Flores and that OSU offense is throwing for 291 yards and 6.3 yards per pass attempt. You got issues on that defense. Oklahoma State had scored 3 and 12 points against FBS opponents this season. They got 27 against Baylor. SMU averaged a staggering 13.4 yards per pass versus Baylor. They only threw the ball 22 times against them. They almost had 300 yards, 295 in the game. Now, Baylor held Arizona State to 400 yards of offense on 80 plays, just 5 yards per play, and held them to 24 points. But yeah, and then only 7 sacks on the season by Baylor. 1.4 per game. That's 107th in the country and 14th in the Big 12. And only 4.4 tackles for loss per game, ranking 111th nationally and last in the league. So they don't create a lot of negative plays. I already mentioned the turnover margins as well and the turnover numbers. They're not going to create a lot of plays unless you give it to them. So, Kansas State, smart, takes care of the football. This is not a Baylor team that forces you into a lot of mistakes. They're not going to force you into a lot of third and longs.
I would say you were to give you a stat on it. Baylor only sacked Jackson Arnold once.
There you go. Yeah, he was running wild, man.
Well, he scrambled a lot, right, guys? I mean,
Yeah.
So I said he dropped back 17 times. He dropped back more than that. It was just he took off and ran, which is what he looks to do. Like that's what Avery Johnson's going to take off and run.
That's what I mean. Yeah, like Jackson Arnold has way more conviction with that. I mean, Jackson Arnold, I feel like, has so little confidence in his offense's ability to pass the ball that he's like engineered to do that, take off more, and that's obviously not what Avery has been conditioned to do. All right, that's a good Baylor preview for you. We'll be back in just a moment to shake it up with some quick hitters and our predictions.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story, like Brain Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Brain Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank. Member FDIC. Equal housing lender.
What's up, guys? I'm BJ Kissel, founder and CEO of KC Sports Network, and I'm here to talk to Kansas City businesses. If you rely on technology, you need an IT support team that's not just another vendor, but a true IT partner. That's why I want to introduce you to my friend and neighbor, KJ Miller. He is a VCIO at ThrottleNet, the Midwest's highest rated and most reviewed IT support company. They've been in business for more than 25 years, helping companies stay secure, productive, and ahead of the curve. They aren't just IT support, but they provide data security, IT strategy, and cloud software services. They do it all, and their reviews show they do it better than anyone else. So if you want to hear about how ThrottleNet can help your local business, join the conversation with myself, KJ Miller from ThrottleNet, and our resident genius from KC Sports Network when it comes to IT, at least as he's affectionately known by us, Mr. Craig Stout. Click the link in the description to hear how ThrottleNet can help you.
All right, let's start the quick hitters with I'm going to set the over-under right at 74.5 for Avery rushing yards. 74.5. You taking the over or the under on Avery Johnson rushing yards?
I'll go under because I think Aranda will. I think something else will be opened up now because of that threat that they threw it out there, and I think that they'll use it as a threat still, and he'll get a good chunk. But to duplicate 75, I'll say under.
It's a hard number to say because 62 yards in his first 4 games on the ground, and now we're talking about him going over 70 back-to-back games.
Yeah, he had 62 at halftime.
Yeah. Look, I'm
kind of what I'm asking here, Cole, is do you think K-State is going to win the game? Because I think that number's got to be over if they're going to win the game, right?
Probably.
Yeah. I would lean. I'm going to give a slight lean to the over. I'll take the over here because I do think this is going to have to be a ground game with Dylan Edwards and Avery Johnson shouldering the workload. You wish you had a bye after this one again because this might be a game they got to run the ball. Those two a combined 40 times.
Yeah. DY, do you have something else?
Avery Johnson's only been sacked 4 times this year. That does help the number.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to say under. But I would certainly like it to be over. This kind of dawned on me. I was thinking about this last night. Okay. I think you'll know where I'm going with the answer here. Which K-State assistant coach has had the best season so far? Which K-State assistant coach has had the best season so far? Cole?
Okay, so I thought you were taking this like I was thinking in my head a former assistant that's like at another school.
No. On K-State staff.
So you're asking probably the most productive, successful position group with the least amount of maybe negative pub here. Yeah. I'll say this. I can make a case that every position is kind of underwhelmed at times. The one that's maybe underwhelmed the least bit, and I think this is it might be the linebackers with Steve Stannard.
No, I know where John's going with this.
Cole.
Special teams with Nate Katzer.
Like someone's got to figure this out, right?
John's going with special teams and Nate Katzer, which
too bad early.
Well, but this is what speaks volumes about it, because honestly, as I'm running through the position groups, like Nate Katzer might be it, but what makes that maybe more infuriating, guys, is that Kansas State might have set a record for special teams turnovers in a season already with 4, and that's what we're highlighting as potentially the most successful group. At least John and I, like that might be where I go.
Stannard, I'd probably go the linebackers. I think have been your best part of your defense, actually. So I think about Steve Stannard and the linebackers. I think about Matt Middleton and the receivers probably. And I know there's way too many drops, but I was actually looking at this. The tight ends have dropped more balls than K-State receivers, which is,
well,
what the heck?
Yeah. Well, tight end is not in the conversation here for who's had the best season so far in terms of assistants.
Yeah, no, it sucks that Jace Brown had to essentially miss that game, because that probably takes a 1,000-yard season off the books too.
I also think there could probably be a case made, guys, that the tight ends really just were probably overrated from last year because they got a bunch of red zone targets that were schemed up wide open because the running game was so good. Like that tight end room just might not be as talented as we thought.
Yeah. Cole, 7th in the country in S&P Plus special teams. 7th in the country.
It's number 3 on PFF, I think.
Did it not feel like it turned when people started calling for Nate Katzer's job? I mean, it's like kind of like after the Army game.
What blows my mind is like before even the last 2 good games, like it was ranked pretty high on SP Plus and PFF. So it's like they don't take turnovers into account. I don't know.
Which is weird because I feel like turnovers like totally tank somebody's individual grade on offense or defense. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, Kansas State special teams was even pretty solid on SP Plus in other years where I thought,
I had Stannard written down. The other thing I said, and this is just because I thought like there have been some bright spots and maybe they've just been the least negative in some ways. I said Buddy Wyatt maybe is also in the.
I haven't seen. Yeah, I mean, I get it. And it's probably you're doing process by elimination, but to me, I haven't seen what I've wanted yet out of Ryan Davis or Toby Osensami.
Yeah. And although we'll always have the Iowa State game for Toby. Who finishes with more wins this year? Cincinnati, who's currently 3-1, or Houston, who's currently 4-0?
Houston, easy. Houston might get to 9.
What's the schedules look like for both?
Okay, well, I will tell you. I think they are fairly similar. Was my analysis here because, I don't know, it's hard to do this on the fly. But Houston's got, they obviously have Texas Tech at home this weekend, which will be very interesting. Then they go to Oklahoma State. They have Arizona. They're at Arizona State, West Virginia at home, at UCF, TCU at home, at Baylor.
They can win 9 games, baby.
Yeah, I got them at least at 8 after you rattled that off. And that's counting the fact that they should have lost to a trash Oregon State team and got completely lucky.
Looking ahead to this week, I think.
Yeah. And then
okay, well, here's Cincinnati. They have Iowa State at home, which Cole thinks Cincinnati's going to win that game. Yeah. They've got UCF at home. They're at Oklahoma State. They've got Baylor at home. They're at Utah. They've got Arizona at home. BYU at home. and at TCU.
Okay, so that's easy then at Cincinnati. Okay, good to know. Even though they already got a loss, it's still Cincinnati. I mean, they're going 9-3. Scott Satterfield's getting his job, keeping his job. So
it's crazy. I feel like 9-3 is on the table for both of those teams, potentially. I don't trust either one of them to actually get there.
I trust Houston because they have a good coach.
I mean, and Cincinnati is going to clown suit Iowa State this weekend by 3. So,
I mean, I like Brendan Sorsby more than I like Connor Wakeman. I'll say that much. I'm going to lean Cincinnati.
Yeah, I thought you would lean Houston since you think Cincinnati's losing this week. I guess you think Houston is too. So.
Yeah, I think they're both losing. Who would you rather have as your coach right now? Two guys that are really beloved by their fan bases, let me tell you, at the moment. Brian Kelly or James Franklin?
Who would you rather be or who would you rather have?
Who would you rather have as your coach?
James Franklin. Didn't kill anyone.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, I'd take James Franklin because at least he's a little bit more likable, it seems, off of Brian Kelly is somebody that I hate. So I think similar, track records, right? Probably. So
that's like exactly where I literally wrote down. I was like, they seem like kind of the same dude right now, and James Franklin at least is less of an ass. That's basically it. Yeah,
he's got a longer, he's got a more of a future in the coaching industry. I was going to ask if James Franklin was ever let go, would you take him as the head coach at Kansas State? But he'd have better suit.
Penn State did make the semifinals last year, and LSU hasn't really sniffed it under Brian Kelly, despite having a Heisman Trophy quarterback.
That is actually true. I would probably argue James Franklin has done a slightly better job, and then Notre Dame. What Marcus Freeman has done is kind of an indictment on Brian Kelly in the immediate after him leaving. So, yeah, Brian Kelly's got an insane buyout too, right? Like, have fun, LSU, with that. All right, finally here, if you were an up-and-coming head coach, which job would you rather have? Would you rather have, I was having this debate with someone yesterday, Arkansas or Oklahoma State? Which open job would you rather have?
Probably Arkansas, just because I think I trust that administration to give me more support.
Yeah, I would lean toward Arkansas because of the money that they could have. Though it sounded like Juracek, the AD, kind of made it sound like they might not have a lot of money. I don't know.
They have, I guess, but I think sometimes I think ADs say that to get people to keep spending. So it's almost like you want to put it out there because you don't want to say, man, we're just flush with cash. And then people say, okay, well, if you have enough, we're not going to give anymore. I think there's part of that AD trickery that goes on at times. I don't think Arkansas is ever going to be short on money personally. I think where Arkansas falls into a trap that maybe a little bit less than Oklahoma State or a little bit more than Oklahoma State is that they can maximize themselves and still be like the 6th best team in their league. Oklahoma State maximizes themselves. They can win. They can be the best team in their league. That's the difference. And salary wise, those positions are probably going to be similar. I just think if you're a head coach, you want support from your administration. You want to be given resource after resource. You'll get that at Arkansas.
Yeah, actually, as you talk through that, DY, I'd take Oklahoma State, actually, because of the Big 12 and being able to be more competitive. What has Arkansas done over the last 20 years in the SEC? They had a couple good seasons under Petrino, right? Otherwise,
cool. I will tell you exactly what they did. They beat the mighty fighting Kansas State Wildcats twice in a bowl game. Okay, that's what they've done.
They also beat Kansas in a Liberty Bowl.
Yeah. So Oklahoma State's had, more success. Oklahoma State has good facilities because of T-Boone and the money's been poured in. And if they get a coach that their fans can rally behind, they'll get NIL support probably.
It's to me it would be like the debate there kind of becomes like playoff access, especially because the latest playoff stuff being kicked around is the Big Ten has now proposed. What if we do like a 2014 playoff where every league gets the same amount of auto bids and it's 3 or 4 auto bids for every league? If you just got to finish in the top 3 or 4 of the Big 12 versus trying to do it in the SEC, I don't know, man. That seems like way easier playoff access at Oklahoma State. But Derek is right. Look, there's like Tyson Chicken Walmart. There's a ton of money in Northwest Arkansas. Like
it's groceries.
yeah, well, yeah.
The grocery university of college football.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, dude, it's crazy. I went to Northwest Arkansas for the first time last year, and I was like, man, there's like an ultra Walmart on like every corner. I've never seen Walmarts like this. Like, it's crazy.
That kind of makes me think, if you're Rhett Lashley, would you stay at SMU or go to Arkansas? I stay at SMU.
I would stay at SMU. Yeah, I don't think they're going to get Rhett Lashley.
I doubt it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, lead pipe lock of the week time. I am in first at 3-2. You're welcome, everybody. Thank you for Vegas giving us the blessing that was Iowa State minus whatever it was 6.5 against Arizona. I mean, that free money, people. Free money. And I feel like there are two that are like that this week. They're both from the ACC. DY and Cole at 2-3, one game behind me. I debated back and forth between whether or not I wanted to go Louisville minus 7.5 against Virginia or Clemson minus 13.5 at North Carolina. I think I'm going to go Clemson here. North Carolina is so bad. I understand Clemson's having a rough year, but they've had a bye week, right? They're going to have their K-State UCF moment, their come to Dabo moment, and they're going to completely pummel a terrible North Carolina team. So I'll take Clemson there.
I get the logic there, and I would, if I had to pick that game, I would pick Clemson. I just don't trust that Clemson right now, and especially not going to do it on the road, even though North Carolina is probably the worst Power 4 team by far. I mean, UCF handled them. So I get that logic. I really like Louisville because this is the fade Virginia spot. I'm going to go KU. I think UCF's trash, and I think KU is going to come out and play really good this week. I think that's an easy one.
What's the spread now? I saw it at 5.5 last night.
I got it at 3.5.
Yeah. Okay, so you're calling it at 3.5, even though it's a 5.5 now.
Well, when I looked at it to do the lead pipe lock, it was 3.5. I don't know. Is it really that changed that much?
Well,
we are a DraftKings podcast. I'll go look at it.
Is Taven Jackson out? Did they say that, Nick?
The 3-Ma Sportsbook. Well, I think we can honor 3.5. That's fine.
Yeah,
okay. Let's just try. Look, I'm in a competitive mood right now. I've actually got a couple wins. And then John, I had Clemson minus 13.5. It's on my notes right here. I'm gonna take it. I'm doubling down with you. That's what my lock was gonna be. North Carolina is terrible. Clemson's not great, but after the bye, I do expect them to be able to win that game by 2+ touchdowns. The other one I was considering, just to to get you guys all riled up, was taking Cincinnati, but because you guys are all gung ho on Iowa State.
Do it. Take Cincinnati. I take a different one. I would have taken Iowa State with John last week, but he took it. So because we want to give the people 3 different picks, right?
No. This just gives you more confidence to double down on the Clemson Tigers with John and I going with them. But if you want to have a little other action, Cincinnati folks, Iowa State's in that game.
I think Cole's got a little bit of too much heart tug going on there.
That's not true. No, I never talk with emotion.
Oh, okay. When it comes to Iowa State, it's only emotion. Kansas is at 4.5 right now. If you want me to use that,
4.5. Okay, that's fine. We'll do it 4.5. We'll go 4.5. Cole, how many turnovers is Rocco Beck's gonna have at Nippert?
3.
0 because no one catches his interceptions.
Oh wait. I'm sorry, guys. Cincinnati's defense was pretty dreadful.
Yeah, like Jalen Daniels had 500 total yards last week.
I'm taking that number to 2. That's still a high number, but I'm moving it from 3 to 2.
Okay, good. All right. Well, it's prediction time, and look, Cole said it. This worked. This worked last week. It was motivating. I'm sorry, K-State. And I'm picking Baylor 31 to 24 here. I didn't even realize it, but I guess I was wearing Baylor colors the whole time anyway. So I was in disguise there.
Cool.
John, you pointed it out. The SP Plus actually only has Baylor by 3.4 points with a 58% win probability and projects Baylor to win 30-27. So a little glimmer of hope, maybe a little glimmer of turning that light back on. Look, this is a game where if Kansas State were to somehow win, you like start to get a feeling of hope again on the season. You're 2-1. You're coming home for a 2:30 kick in October for a beautiful fall day against TCU, where you'd have a great atmosphere. Like, man, that would be fun. I would like to have a moment or two like that this season, where you can at least feel some hope again. But I ultimately just think Baylor's offense will be proved too much against Kansas State's defense. Kansas State's defensive numbers actually aren't awful across the board. But again, it's the explosives, and they haven't played an offense close to Baylor's capability. Iowa State's the most they played, and that was in the season opener, and we know Iowa State replaced so much at receiver and on the offensive side of the ball that I don't think that's a great gauge. I just think this Baylor offense is night and day different than what Kansas State has faced so far this year, and so ultimately I think Baylor will come out on top. I'll take Baylor 38, Kansas State 30.
I get Baylor too. So bringing the helmets back, and I'm going to throw it. I'm going to keep it. Baylor wins. I'll say 41-35. Too much offense.
You need to get one of the DY. You need to update and get the those like chrome Baylor helmets that they were wearing the other day. Get a little mini Baylor chrome helmet.
Christmas is coming up. Give me one.
Okay, there you go. Well, you heard the man, everybody out there, 3 Mile fans. You can go find DY. It's Bill Snyder Family Stadium. Give him a chrome Baylor helmet. Help out with the collection.
Rydell, not a sponsor, could be.
John, could you turn,
that would be sick. Can we get a Rydell sponsorship? That would be so awesome. Somebody talk to BJ about that. Let's get a Rydell sponsorship.
Well, I think Chris Kleiman's his brother's a helmet guy or a uniform guy, right? I think so. Maybe we could.
Okay.
Yeah, John, could you turn the light back on just for good old woman's sake, maybe?
The vibes. You turned it on at the end of the last show, and we won. So you gotta.
But he felt motivated when he did it. He doesn't feel motivated. He doesn't feel inspired.
We didn't peer pressure him this time because we also picked K-State to lose.
I know that's the problem, Cole. You were the one that tipped it over the edge last time. You got me all hyped up on Luis Rodriguez. So maybe you should tell me about Luis Rodriguez kicking a game-winning goal.
You know what? Luis Rodriguez mentioned just got me to maybe flip my pick. Oh my goodness, folks. Whoa. I am having an out-of-body experience. Kansas State, 35. Baylor, 31. Kansas State goes in.
Whoa. 35. That is not a field goal score. So Luis Rodriguez isn't kicking a field goal the entire game?
Don't discount the importance of making extra points, Jonathan. All right? So, changing it again, 38. 38 to 34. Kansas State. I am
So it's not a game winner from Luis.
No, it's Kansas State up 1 driving with 2.5 minutes left and has to settle for a field goal to go up 4, and then Baylor drives it to the Kansas State 10, and I'm sitting, on my roof watching from my phone.
And then VJ Payne gets the interception.
Yeah, it'll be like the Tulane game, an obvious pass interference call or whatever. What happened? They call OPI on Tulane. I can't even remember.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Yeah. We'll get a controversial call and a VJ Payne interception.
OPI on Michael Trigg. Cheater.
Cole, I had a Tulane fan. I'm trying to remember what game it was. If it was the Army game, when I just tweeted something about how bad K-State had been or whatever, and things were really low this year. I had a Tulane fan in my mentions, or maybe it was even YouTube comments that was just like, "Hey, dude, so glad to see this. You guys deserve it for cheating in New Orleans last year." And I was like, man, Tulane fans are still holding on to that from last season. How about that? So
for all the success that program has had over the last few years to be clinging on to that. I mean, gosh, just let us have our win at Tulane, okay? We've struggled against them. So.
Yeah, right. You guys won in Manhattan. Just chill, man.
Stop being so selfish. I mean, yeah. So yeah, Caps win 38-34.
Yeah, Tulane up there. You're right. Look at that. A lot of symmetry here at the end of the show. I'm sure Holiday is proud. Thank you, Holiday. Thank you, Alenco, ALENCO home.com. Thank you to Nick Springer behind the scenes. Special shout out to our man, Luis Rodriguez. This is we are the biggest Luis Rodriguez fans around. America's #1 Luis Rodriguez podcast, 3 Ma. We will talk to you all very soon. Take care.